My love of the TV series Smallville is well documented, and there's one rewatch podcast that's always at the top of my queue. Zach Moore's Always Hold On to Smallville, which continues with more great Smallville and Superman talk now that their series rewatch has concluded. Listen wherever you get podcasts. Fat Moose Comics, established in 1982, is New Jersey's best and oldest comic book store. Moose has that rare old-school comic shop feel and camaraderie, yet also remains a welcoming space for new fans. Visit them in Whippany or reach out via the Fat Moose Comics Facebook page. If you have children and are looking for a family-friendly store, look no further than Aw Yeah Comics. Visit one of their 3 locations, Harrison, New York, Muncie, Indiana, or Skokie, Illinois, and check out awyeahcomics.com for more. Their name says exactly how they feel about it. Aw yeah! In the 1950s, George Reeves embodied the Man of Steel in Superman's first television adaptation, from its gritty black and white beginnings to the kid-friendly color years. To this day, an entire generation reveres George as their Superman, while for others, the show remains an overlooked, underrated chapter in the character's history. On this podcast, we bring everyone together as we break down each episode of Adventures of Superman, examining it within the context of the series itself, as well as the larger Superman mythology. Welcome to another exciting episode in the Adventures of Superman. I'm your host, Anthony Desiato. Joining me to discuss Season 5, Episode 11, The Stolen Elephant, is the host of the podcast Truth, Justice, and the Way, Superman and Spirituality, returning guest Rick Lee James. Welcome back.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be back again.
We had quite an episode last time with the Prince Albert coat. Maybe things will be a little bit better for us this time with the stolen elephant. We'll see. In this one, criminals hold a circus elephant for ransom and stash him at the farm of a young boy who takes the elephant as a pet. This aired on May 17th, 1957, written by David Chandler, directed by Harry Gerstad. Our guest cast includes Gregory Moffat as Little Johnny Wilson, Eve McVeigh as Mrs. Wilson, Thomas Jackson as Mr. Haley of Haley's Circus, Greg Martel as Busher, and Stanford Jolly as Spike. On the note of Haley's Circus, a little nod to the comics there, no?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I didn't look it up to see exactly when that appeared, but I thought that was a comic book reference. So it is nice when in the show we actually do get some real comic book references. There are a few times that it feels like, wow, they really nailed from that era. And I know if several episodes back, I think it was last season even, when Lois Lane has her dream, that was so much like Superman's girlfriend, Lois Lane. You know, it was like they really paid attention. So somebody in the writing of this was paying attention to something in the comics at that time. So
yeah,
that's always
great.
A plus.
Yeah, we don't get a little Dick Grayson running around the circus here, but we do get Haley's Circus.
Yeah.
So what were your overall reactions to this one?
I like animals a lot, so I enjoyed the elephant aspect. I still, again, the animal napping thing as a way to make money. I always feel like that wouldn't work in real life the way it does in these shows. But again, I'm trying to go back to what it would be like if I was a child watching this. And for children, that's probably the way the world works in their mind. You know, that would be like, oh yeah, if I had an elephant, and that maybe is some of a little bit of the thing that I find kind of charming about an episode like this is I do think maybe kids would be excited about something like that. You know, elephants and animals and circuses. I can remember a time as a child when I kind of thought circuses were kind of exciting and I wanted to go to the circuses and I would watch them on television. I outgrew that pretty quickly, I think, but I can remember being younger and being quite enamored by that. So I could understand, especially back in the age, you know, before the internet and video games and all the things we have now, the circus was probably one of those really big draws for children. And I think if this show was aimed at the children, it makes a lot of sense to do something related to a circus.
Fair. I mean, so it sounds like you got a bit more out of this than I did.
Okay.
It's funny. So when I reached out to you about doing 3 episodes of season 5, and I shared with you which which ones I had openings for. I
Yeah.
prefaced it. I was like, it's not the cream of the crop here with these episodes. I'm glad you got more out of it. I will say I at least enjoyed this more than the one than we did last time with the Prince
More
Albert
than the
quote.
one before.
I mean, this is not the first or the last episode involving an animal. I don't think this is the most effective one we've seen, but arguably not the least effective either. I suppose somewhere in between. Also, far from the only one dealing with a young child and especially the child's attachment to the animal.
Mm-hmm.
I agree wholeheartedly. And that was one thing I was thinking about, like that, especially for that time, it probably would have been quite a thrill for a kid watching this to see the baby elephant on screen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I take for granted now how easily we can pull up, zoo walkthrough videos on YouTube or what have you, or all of these nature documentaries and show you're never at a loss if you kind of want to see that. But, for that time, I mean, I guess that would have been a thrill. I did not care for the tail pulling and the ear pulling of the animal. That. So that was a little tough, but yeah, I would imagine that would have stood out. And I'll offer the same praise, that's too strong. The same credit that I did last week, where once again, at least we have an actual kid in the role. And in another improvement over last week, at least here we start with our Daily Planet crew, right? As opposed to last time where I felt like we were taking forever. We were spending so much time with this little kid and his great grandfather. At least here, I feel like everyone was kind of woven through a little bit better. So I think a little bit more redeeming value for this one. All right. Clark, Lois, and Jimmy speak with the owner of Haley Circus about the upcoming Daily Planet picnic for underprivileged kids. And Rick, I'm shocked. And I think I even rewound this to make sure I didn't miss it. I totally would have expected them to say that this was to benefit the camp fund, because it's always about camp the show, but they didn't get that specific. It's just about the underprivileged kids.
Underprivileged. It was even too much for these kids to dream of camp. It was just underprivileged in general. So
what's funny? Every time they talk about camp, I complain about. Complain maybe is a little too strong, but I'm always struck by. I'm like, oh, camp again. But now, when they don't mention it, I'm like, hey, what about the camp?
They've converted you. Now you want to go to camp.
Yeah, and I'm like, isn't this for the camp? Like, I got to send these kids to camp. All right. It turns out that baby elephant Susie, who was like a pet to Mr. Haley and is intended to be the main attraction at the picnic, has been stolen. Oh, and they make a point throughout the episode that Superman guaranteed that elephant would be at the picnic. That seems to be like those are the stakes of this episode. It's like, yes, my God, Superman said the elephant would be there.
Yeah. Yeah. And he doesn't lie. He keeps his word. So this is a big deal.
Yeah. The thieves, Busher and Spike, drive through the night and stash Susie at a farm they believe to be deserted. Anything else about this opening before we meet Johnny Wilson here?
No, I'm ready to meet Johnny Wilson.
Let's meet Johnny Wilson. It turns out the farm is not deserted. Little Johnny Wilson and his mother recently moved there from the city and discuss adjusting to farm life. She reveals she didn't forget his birthday and hands him the modest gift of marbles. Outside, Johnny sees Susie and mistakes her for his real present, and his mother doesn't have the heart to correct him. If there's one truly sympathetic figure in this episode, I feel like it's his mom.
Yeah.
I mean, arguably Johnny himself, but I don't know. There was something about the dynamic between them. Like, there's no talk of a father in this picture. My read was that it's just the two of them.
Yeah.
And they talk about the money troubles and, how modest this birthday present is. And like, you understand why she doesn't have the heart to tell him, no, the elephant is not your gift.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. I was intrigued by that.
Yeah. And she seemed, she seemed genuinely like she wanted to give him more for his birthday than she could have, like any good mom would want to do. Also, she kind of seemed nonchalant about an elephant being in the barn, In some ways, it was kind of surprised at first, and then, like, I'm just going to go in the house now and enjoy your elephant,
So there's that. And also, like, here's the thing. So Johnny he's a kid, but he's not 5. Like, he's old enough where I'm saying to myself, like, bro, you really think you're going to have an elephant as a pet? But I reading this as generously as possible, like, they do make the point. They're new to farm life. They don't know. They don't know. They think a baby elephant comes with the farm.
Yeah, there's deer, there's stray cats, and there's elephants out in the farm. So
Yeah, so
it
I don't, but
it
for whatever reason, I bought the tenderness between the two of them, and it
yeah.
was just one of those things. I'm like, what's your backstory? Because yeah, like
Hmm.
again, no talk of a father, and again, especially at that point in time, like you would expect to see kind of that more traditional,
Sure.
nuclear family, and the fact that they've moved out to it, like why that's a big shift.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
what's going? That's the more interesting episode
That
that I would have loved to have seen.
Now that you mention that, yeah, it would be interesting to know what that backstory was, especially in the time when it was when you're right. You would have expected a man to be at the center of the story, the father of the home, or at least be present in some way. So we don't know if she's divorced, if she's a widow, or what has happened in her life, just a single mother. Any of those would make an interesting backstory. And I would think especially an interesting backstory for Superman to be supportive of someone like that because they would probably be downtrodden in society in that day and time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Next, Mr. Haley visits Clark at the planet and reveals he received a ransom demand for $10,000, which he plans to pay. And I say to myself, business must be booming at that circus. I mean, $10,000, over $100,000 in today's money. I
Hmm.
mean, really loves that elephant.
And it's definitely a better idea than waiting for the closed donations to come in. That's for sure. They're more likely to get the $10,000 for the elephant than rummaging through pockets for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, I feel like this guy doesn't bat an eye. He's all right,
Yeah.
$10,000, no problem. I should have asked. They should have asked for more. In retrospect.
That's right.
Uh,
Oh boy.
At the farm, one of the thieves sees Johnny feeding the elephant and reports back to his accomplice, who's working on a mystery device that we'll see later in the episode. And that's our act break.
Yeah. Oh, can I say something too? I know we just got into the act break, but there was a line that struck me funny that I wrote down, and one of them says, "What if somebody stops this truck full of elephant we're hauling?" Which, which is just such a funny line, like because it's one elephant. Somebody stops this truck full of elephant we're hauling. It just really struck me funny. uh,
Absolutely.
in the midst of it. But I may just use that in life sometime as a way. We can't stop now. What if somebody stops this truck full of elephant we're hauling around?
Truck full of
So,
elephant. Yeah, no, I like that. As we come back here, Busher and Spike reclaim Susie from Johnny, claiming to be the real owners and producing an elephant registration number. Johnny relays this to his apologetic mother, then sees an article in the Planet about the elephant theft and calls Clark. Superman arrives at the farm to hear the story yet again and clocks the information about the registration number. And I'm saying to myself, we see this encounter between Johnny and the two guys. Then we
Mhm.
have Johnny tell it to his mother. Then we have Johnny tell it to Clark on the phone. Then we have them tell it to Superman. How many friggin' times do we need to recount these events about the elephant registration number? I
Yeah,
was like, come on.
it's a very important plot point.
It reminds
So,
me of like, kind of classic. I'm thinking like Silver Age comics where you would have the caption that's explaining what's happening, and
hmm.
then the dialogue explaining what's happening, and then the character's thought bubble thinking about what's happening.
Yeah.
I felt like that here. I'm like, all right, we got it.
Yeah, especially in comic strips, if you read them in a collection from a newspaper or something, you get a lot of that too. Like it seems like it just repeats over and over and over again like that. So maybe again, maybe they're being truthful to the comic, being true to looking back and what the comics were like.
Yeah, I suppose. At the circus, Jimmy comes in with a guided missile that someone handed him. Sure, sure, Jimmy. All right, just
It's
just walks in as nonchalant as can be. There are instructions to load it up with the ransom money and shoot it off, but instead, Superman follows it, but is tricked and is led to a location 300 miles away. It turns out this was a diversion, and Busher and Spike enter the tent, take the money, and share Susie's location. Superman returns seemingly defeated for once.
Hmm.
Now, before we get to the final resolution here, this was, I think, the most interesting aspect of it. And,
Yeah.
well, before I go further, yeah, what were your thoughts on this?
Well, it was a twist. I didn't actually see it coming. It had been a while since I watched the episode, and I don't remember all the details very well. But I thought, that was pretty well played that they would actually do something to trick Superman, because I assumed like probably most of us, like he's going to follow it to where it goes and it's going to be at the hideout and then it'll be the conclusion. But they actually did kind of outsmart him, which I thought, oh, good on them. That's a good job.
Yeah, like it had been long enough since I watched this the last time that I didn't remember the exact resolution, and I guess I felt like my internal clock. I felt like we were deep enough into the episode where, exactly to your point, I'm like, okay, he's going to follow them there, bonk their heads together, and we're
Hmm.
out.
Yep.
So I was pleasantly surprised that, oh, there's another angle here. I dug the prop of the rocket. I thought that was cool that we had that bit in there. And it's one of those things. I mean, I wish that this had been allowed to breathe for more than like a few seconds. But this whole
Yeah.
idea of Superman tricked, Superman defeated, those are
Hmm.
in the first episode of season 5, the Peril in Paris. We talked about how there's this, once again, brief fleeting moment where it looks like
Hmm.
Superman's been duped, and he's
Hmm.
so disappointed in himself, and you see that guilt and that shame, and he's let down the people who trust him. And it's like, man, this is your episode. I know these shows weren't built for that, but those are the moments that I really crave and I would love to see
Yeah.
fleshed out. So we just get a moment of it here, but it was interesting while it lasted.
Well, and you just made me think of something too that I remembered about this episode. And I know I watched several in a row, but I think it was this one where Clark is it's it's almost like he's off his game a little bit because he doesn't know where the elephant is. And you would think it wouldn't be that hard for Superman to go out and fly, use his X-ray vision, look around and find an elephant. It seems like that would stand out, in the midst of the area that he could cover. But he's just sitting in the Daily Planet office, like that elephant has to be somewhere, but where? There's no way of knowing. And so it already feels like he's a little bit off. And, did he get exposed to some kryptonite that had a strange effect on him and the bad guys are tricking him? Like that could have actually been something you might have seen in the comics of that era too. Like maybe something along the way he had encountered something that he was not quite on his game, and that's why Superman explains it. And it didn't go there, but it makes me think of what could have been with just a little bit of tweaking from some of the things that were in the comics of that age.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But then Superman remembers this elephant registration number business and realizes it's actually a car registration. He tracks down
Ah,
Busher and Spike, bonks their heads together, and Mr. Haley awards Johnny a lifetime pass to the circus. And that's our episode.
yeah. Can't beat a lifetime pass to the circus for sure.
And an invitation to
So,
come along over the summer
yeah.
to care for Susie. So yeah, I mean, happy ending all around. And the kids can go to camp or whatever the picnic was for.
I think they just want to go to the circus in this one, which, that used to be the phrase, I'm going to run away and join the circus back in the day. I think that really was an attraction that people had of going to be the circus. So my guess is if you're a kid growing up in this time, it has just enough for you that they were planning on really enticing children with the circus and all the things that they were dreaming about. And what kid wouldn't want to find an exotic animal out in their barn for their birthday present? And I don't know. I think maybe kids would have enjoyed this one a little bit more than some of the other episodes for sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I would agree with that. Interesting. A while back, former Flash TV star Grant Gustin was on Broadway in a show called Water for Elephants, and I
Mm,
got to see that with my wife, and it was a great
nice.
show, and yeah, about this young man who was leaving his past behind and joined the circus. It was
Hmm.
very good. Made me think of that as I was watching this.
Yeah.
All right, on a scale of 1 to 5, how many Great Caesar's Ghosts are we giving this one?
I'm gonna go up a little bit from past episodes for me. I'm gonna go up to 3, I think. I enjoyed it enough and even the twist of Superman being duped, that was pretty neat. So I'm gonna go up in my grade a little bit.
Okay, I don't think I can go higher than a 1. I want to go higher because I not to have to match you, but I was like, but I think 1. I think 1 is where I am. But yeah, I mean, I think in the realm of season 5, we take what we can get here. And
Right?
yeah, the back and forth with Johnny and his mother, the fact that it was actually a kid, the prop rocket, Superman getting tricked, all that stuff was solid. Otherwise, I didn't find it particularly compelling. But
Yeah.
but there we have it. Well, listen, this is the
Yeah.
third and final of the episodes that you joined me for this season. I'm glad that before the run of this podcast ends, that we were able to connect and have you on.
Well, and I just want to say how much fun this has been for me, Anthony. Thank you so much for inviting me on. And I've been enjoying listening to the show. And I do work a pretty stressful job throughout the day as a hospital chaplain. So I'm with a lot of people who are not having the best day of their life. And for me, this has just been so much fun to get to come home at the end of my week, spend a little bit of time with you talking about something light and fun like Superman. But it also is meaningful to me too, because I really find a source of value and purpose and meaning in the character of Superman. So just all that is to say, thank you. Please keep doing what you're doing. I'm loving the shows. So thank you so much for bringing this to us every week.
No, I thank you so much. I really appreciate that. And I appreciate all the work you do. I know it can be heavy work, and the fact that we can offer any sort of break or fun amidst all of that is really an honor. And I'm so happy to have had you here for these episodes. I encourage everyone to check out your podcast. The link will be in the show notes for them. So thank you, Rick. Thank you, audience. As always, next week, Luke Koza is going to come back. He's going to tag in for the infamous Mr. Zero episode. You don't want to miss that. We're winding down here on season 5, so make sure you come back next week. And until then, as always, only Superman can do super things. Ever wonder what would happen if a person who knew barely anything about comics decided to absorb hundreds of Superman stories? Robbo is that kind of person, and that's exactly what he's doing on a new show called This Podcast Will Never Die. Listen and subscribe today. Single Bound is a new podcast hosted by married couple Amy and Logan as they review single issues of comics. And if the title makes you think of Superman, you're not alone, as the Man of Steel is a regular topic of discussion. Listen and subscribe to Single Bound on Spotify and YouTube. This podcast is an affiliate of BCW Supplies. The next time you need to restock on comic book bags, boards, boxes, and more, be sure to use promo code FSP to save 10% on your order. That's FSP for Flat Squirrel Productions. It helps support the show too. Thank you. Another way to support the show and receive exclusive content, including the spin-off podcast Beyond Metropolis, is by becoming a member at patreon.com/Anthony Desiato. My sincere thanks to all patrons. Please subscribe, rate, and review today via your podcast platform of choice, and continue the conversation by joining us on social media. Flat Squirrel Podcasts is also home to Digging for Kryptonite, a Superman fan journey, a long-running weekly series mining Superman's vast mythology across time and media. Subscribe today. Another exciting episode is a Flat Squirrel production. Key art by Greg Schiegel and theme music by Dan Pritchard.